All right, I think we should go ahead and get started. So I just want to give a big welcome to everyone and thank you for joining Blockchain Development and Innovation in the Banking and Finance Industry webinar. I'm super excited to be introducing our co-host today. Before that, I'll just get into some housekeeping items. So I will say that this video is going to be recorded, so you can reference it later, or if you're unable to stay for the whole thing, or if you want to share it with colleagues, it will be available, send it to you by Zoom, and also it'll be available on Inflector's YouTube. And there will also be 10 to 15 minutes at the end of the webinar for a Q&A. So throughout the webinar, please send your questions in the Q&A chat, and we will answer them, try to do our best to answer all of them in that 10 to 15 minutes in the end. But if we are unable to answer all of them, we'll reach out to you directly and try to answer those questions. And I also wanted to thank BLOOCK Technologies. Super excited to be putting on this joint webinar with you guys, and it's been a pleasure working with your team the past month to get this together. So I am happy to introduce our co-hosts. I'll introduce my colleague, August Guenther. He is on Inflector's SpirePlan product team, and he is a full stack developer with market and general knowledge of popular blockchain implementations like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other crypto and NFT projects. And we also have Marc Baqué. He is the other co-host and BLOOCK's CTO. He is a full stack developer as well, with a deep knowledge of blockchain technology and expertise in the Ethereum ecosystem. And he also helps grow BLOOCK's product by developing new functionalities in accordance with client needs. So those are my two hosts. And before we kind of dive into the topic today, I just want to give a brief background on Inflectra if you're new to Inflectra's tool and company. So Inflector was founded in 2006, and we are headquartered in the US. We have offices in more than 10 countries and also a global partner network. And so we offer here at Inflectra a suite of intuitive enterprise solutions that manage the entire software lifecycle for our customers. We have products that address application test management, test automation, lifecycle management, and a whole lot more of those things that you see on the screen. And of our tools, SpirePlan is our flagship, probably our most popular tool. It's an enterprise level portfolio management platform, and it kind of combines test management, portfolio management, and requirements traceability features all in one, in an all-in-one solution. And we also have integrations with over 60 other applications available for SpirePlan. Rapise is our test automation tool that is used to test web, mobile, desktop applications and APIs. And before I kind of hand the microphone over to Marc, I will say, like the slide says, Inflector's products was created with customers in mind. And because of that, we don't accept any outside investment. So the products are influenced by users' needs and not for those of investors. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and hand over the microphone to Marc.
Say a little bit about BLOOCK, first of all, and then we're going to present the use case for this webinar. So in BLOOCK, we are a company which has a product which is a blockchain solution for enterprise that is basically for data security and authenticity that is made in a simple, scalable, and confidential manner. And we have use case for pretty much every areas or markets, including the banking and finance space, healthcare, education, legal, NGOs, and more and more. So basically for this presentation, we're gonna present a use case related to the banking and finance space, which is the balance certification or certificates. At the end, is certificates that the bank emits or issues to their customers, but also for internal certificates, how to identify that this document has been tamper-proofed or it has like integrity issues along the process. So basically the process today in the banking balance certification, the actual workflow, it's similar to that one that is shown in the screen, which is basically that we have one banking entity that actually issues a balance certification, for example, and gives it out to their client or customer. The client itself receives obviously the certification, and maybe they want to submit it to another third party, which can be another banking entity, or to the government, for example, but at the end to a third party, which is the certifications, and maybe they want to verify it. So in that case, what they need to do probably is go to the first banking entity and actually confirm that the document is actually valid, and the authenticity of this document is also valid. Okay. So this provides several issues or problems or improvements that can be done to this process, which the first one is it's vulnerable to counterfeiting. Basically, this means that it's relatively easy to actually manipulate the document using basic tools to actually, for example, modifying the balance itself, or for other use cases, modifying the account ownership or payment certificate to actually manipulate it. So there can be counterfeiting issues in there. The second one is the dependence on the banking entity, which is basically that there's no mechanism at all to verify the authenticity of this document without communicating to the issuer bank or entity by itself. There's no way. And the third one is obviously there's a risk and potential damage to the issuing entity because, for example, if you modify the certificate, you have like a serious damage on the entity prestige, or even significant financial losses at most. So we need a solution to actually solve this particular workflow, but as I said, it can be applied to other issuance of certificates that it's been done in a bank or a financial institution or whatever, that actually complies with different things. The first one is compliance by itself. Financial institutions must ensure that privacy and security of the data of their customers is actually maintained during time. And also they have to comply with different regulatory changes that came over time. The second one is traceability. It's important to actually, all these documents that are being issued by an entity to actually being traced during time. And if it has, for example, if the document has to be validated by different entities or stakeholders of the process, that actually has the traceability of this process point by point and during time, obviously. The third one is security and privacy, probably one of the most important things that in centralized systems, there are always security breaches. There's no cybersecurity thing that actually assures you in a centralized manner that a system is secure. So this is vulnerable to, for example, fraud attempts, or at the end to raise the security of your customer data for security reasons or cybersecurity reasons. And the third one is speed and agility. That for this process, I think it's really important, just because if the final entity wants to verify the data that has received, it has to go to the first entity and verify the authenticity and integrity of the document. This, for example, for banks of the same company, it may be depending on the country, obviously, but it can be pretty easy. But when you start going to foreign banks or whatever, it can start to be difficult because different time zones, different procedures, and all that. And this is not something I have invented. This is based on actually real examples that have occurred during time. The first one is, for example, here in Europe, the European Commission actually, it has a specific document that actually reports the use of counterfeit documents. It's a real thing in Europe, and it can affect really to the companies that are here. And the second one is a real falsification issue that happened also here in Europe, I think, that basically the beneficiary of a European subvention, I think it was, basically it provides a bank statement declaring a balance that it was not real, and because of this, they approved the subvention, and actually it wasn't wrong. It was wrong, so they couldn't accomplish with all the requirements that it had to be provided at the end. So it was a real problem here, and it could be solved by using the workflow, the updated workflow that I'm going to propose right away. So this can be solved by using blockchain. This is the topic of this webinar. So first of all, let me explain really quick what is blockchain for people who may not know the technology. And I'm going to do like a simplified version. I'm not going to go into technicalities of the technology because I could be speaking for pretty much 6 hours, probably. So I'm going to do like a quick intro here. So blockchain is kind of like a gigantic database that anyone can write in there, and they can, customers, companies, individuals can publish data in there. And once uploaded, you can verify the integrity of this data by going to this common source of trust, which is blockchain, and not going to a centralized entity, which can be a bank, for example. It's a company by itself. It's a centralized entity. So you can have this common source of trust in there to actually autonomously verify data without going to a centralized entity, which you may be dependent on. So despite the fact that the network is actually accessible by anyone, it's mathematically secure by introducing the concept of this distributed technology or decentralized technology. What does it mean? Basically, the information is not kept by an individual or a single entity, which could be like a company. All the information goes across different nodes, which are basically computers, servers, that store all the information repeatedly. So by that, you are resilient to different attacks. For example, if one goes down, you have all the other ones that actually can provide this information. So it's resilient to this, to one node deciding to go down, for example. Basically, the other one is that is secure and is resilient, as I said, but obviously, the more nodes you have, the more security you have at all. Okay, so if you have a blockchain of 2 nodes, we can discuss if this is a blockchain or not. But going for example, if you have like 5,000 nodes in a blockchain, it's pretty much secure because it's really difficult that all 5,000 goes down. And the other one is that the information is visible to anyone who accesses the blockchain. And this means that enables the functionality of actually independently auditing the data, or doing audit trails and all that. What are the advantages of this technology? So basically, I'll summarize it in 3 of them. First of all, is accessible and transparent by anyone. No one can deny the access of on a public blockchain specifically. The second one is that is hyper secure, which means that by using this decentralized structure and all the mathematically cryptographical things that goes around, it's really secure, more than conventional systems. And it's actually immutable. This means that once one data is published into the blockchain, it cannot change. And this works by different consensus mechanism that actually assures that the data cannot be modified by anyone. The only way you cannot delete things, you cannot modify things, the only thing you can do is add things, okay? And this is what enables audit trailing at the end. So I'll go really quick here, but actually cybersecurity is one thing that most companies don't take into account, or at least don't take into account until something happens, some issue happens. More the time advances, most companies try to be more on date on this kind of things, because we are taking the importance of how the data is important for a company. And this is really important. It's really something that once data tries to guide our business decisions, we take the importance of this data. So we need to secure this data and actually verify the integrity and authenticity of this, because it will drive the business at the end if we take business data-driven decisions there. So how would be the workflow at the end by using this type of technology? We said that in the actual workflow, we have two entities, separate entities, and we have the customer in the middle. And actually, if the second entity wants to verify the data that they have received, they have to go to the first one to actually verify it. As said, this is really inefficient and can bring to communication issues and actually counterfeiting at the end. So with blockchain, what we do is basically the first entity actually creates the certifications, it digitally signs it, and it certifies it on the blockchain. Okay, by publishing it into them through Blook, for example, but you can go directly if you want. There's no need to take Blook in here. What happens then is that you are creating, as I said before, a common source of trust. Okay, so once the certification moves out to the client, and at the end, it moves out to the second entity, company, banking, whatever it is, it can go directly to the blockchain to actually verify it. If you see the change here, basically, we are always going to the blockchain to actually verify things. And this is really important because you are introducing, again, the term of a common source of trust. That means that you, as an individual entity, you can verify the integrity, the authenticity, and time information about the document without relying on anyone else. Okay, you go directly to the blockchain and verify all these things at once, autonomously, without depending on any provider, on any entity, and any customer. So this provides different benefits by using this workflow, which the first one, as I said, the process becomes really agile. Everyone can verify things autonomously. The second thing is that you follow compliance standards as well as you are following probably now. And this is because of Blook. This is something that we provide by ourselves because we grant the highest privacy standards and we are GDPR compliant. And basically, data doesn't move to Blook and then goes to blockchain, for example. The data by its own is preserved in the client in your site, and we only receive like a representation of this data to actually certify the integrity of it. I can go more in details if you want later on. The third one is end-to-end traceability, and that's because once you have all the certifications done in the blockchain, you can actually do an audit trailing on the different modifications that this document has suffered during time. For example, if one banking entity emits this document, then it goes to another party that has to sign it too, and then goes to the final customer, for example. You can trace all these steps and actually make all the process traceable. Okay. The fourth one is security and privacy, and that's basically because Blook guarantees that all the recorded information complies with privacy, and we ensure total security because of decentralization, basically. Okay, once we publish things in blockchain, and we can autonomously verify that the data is that the data integrity and authenticity can be verified autonomously without even the manipulation of Blook in behind. We can totally assure mathematically the security and privacy of the process. And then there's eliminating the fraud risk. It's not eliminating at all the fraud in the process, because this is pretty much impossible. For example, it could be that the data has been issued wrong by the bank itself, but it's about minimizing the fraud. Okay, once the document has been issued by the bank, the document, you can verify the integrity of the document during the whole process, so you can assure it has not been manipulated at all during all the process. And then this is probably not something functional at all in the process, in the workflow, but I think it's also important. That is the prestige and innovative positioning. So basically, obviously, the entity promoting this kind of workflows and innovative technology that has been proven over time, obviously, you are positioning yourself as users of cutting-edge technologies. And then I'm finally going to move out to August, that will talk about how this affects Inflectra and different integration solutions for them.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Mark, for giving that presentation about blockchain and the finance space. I think it's really cool that his company is doing things with blockchain that provide value to companies, because one of the big questions in blockchain up until this point has been, Bitcoin's cool, but what are we actually going to do with it? And I think it's awesome that he's providing an answer to that question. Uh, I'm now going to take this opportunity to talk about our open ecosystem with our Spira plan, Spira team, and Spira test products. I'm just going to shorten it to Spira because they're all very much similar and they use the same APIs. But I'm going to hit on some of the points of why you would want to use our API and some of the benefits that we provide to our customers. Some of the big things is that our API versions are never depreciated. So we still support our version 1 API that's over 10 years old today, and it is still secure, and any bugs that were in it when it was released have been fixed, and we intend to continue doing that with our newer API versions. Having our API public and available, we can allow both on-premise and cloud users to write integrations with external services, including BLOOCK's blockchain integration, so that you can integrate whatever services you may want with our product, even if we don't offer a pre-made solution for that. Now I'm going to talk about what a potential integration scenario would look like and how it could be used, how both of our products could be used together in order to provide more value to your organization. One of the things that he talked about was validating documents. I don't know if he mentioned it explicitly, but one of the big things that this provides is the validation of documents, things like banking certificates. And while the data being verified on the blockchain is very good, if you don't know where that data actually is, or if you don't have some sort of information of where you could access it and actually look at that data, it doesn't really help you. And so my idea for an integration would be having a system in which you could upload an image of some sort or any sort of file that contains information. You can validate it against the blockchain, against multiple blockchain using a BLOOCK service, and then you could upload that document to your Spira product, and then tie the hash code, which is basically your key that tells you where the data is stored on the blockchain and when it has been validated, and contains all that information. And so when you can tie those things together, you end up getting both the advantages of having a centralized area for your documents to be stored, while also being able to have the validity and authenticity verification that BLOOCK service provides. Currently, we have a REST API and a SOAP API. I believe we also have an OData API in our newest versions. And in the future, we are also planning to support external webhooks, which is really exciting for integrations like this, where in the future, you could potentially write a program where you just uploaded a file into your Spira product, and then it immediately runs a service to validate that information against the blockchain without you needing to kind of write some external system that does both of these things. I think that's all for me on this topic.
Just to add on one thing you said, I think that, well, one of the priorities of BLOOCK is actually making blockchain technology accessible to anyone. So we take real effort into make our technology really simple and not trying for you to not to have to deal with blockchain deep concepts such as nodes, gas, transactions, private keys, and all that. So we do all that things from behind while maintaining totally the security of the process. And with Inflectra, as they have all this integration structure at the end, it's actually really simple. So by joining the tool simplicities, you provide different functionalities that you can apply to different use cases, not only the one that we presented today, but different ones that involves, for example, document verification, as you said, that can be implemented really easy and pretty much effortless. Yeah.
So I have one question here, and this is quite an interesting question. So he said this technology, I think he's referring to BLOOCK's technology. This technology sounds like it can be used to secure American elections, allowing elections to be done online from home, and Americans can have a high level of confidence that their vote was counted and not altered who they voted for. Is that correct?
Yes. we had to build a use case for that, of course, but we are currently here. We are based in Barcelona, and here we have some public institutions that are currently relying on us to provide the voting solutions. So yes, basically we partner with different solutions based on blockchain as well, and we help them basically publish this data to public blockchains. So yeah, we can provide the voting solutions, and based on that, you provide the maximum security for these elections to be first secure and then totally verifiable at the end. Yeah.
I would also like to add to that it also could make elections more open, where some people have struggled to vote because they live in a county that maybe has one voting station that's 3 hours away, and they work a full-time job and they have kids to take care of, so they don't have time. So I think that having online voting is a wonderful idea, and using blockchain to validate it is one of the best solutions, I think, because the problem has been if we're just communicating over these standard secure protocols that maybe don't really cut it for the security that we want in an election, having something like this where we have a public verifiable ledger would be extremely valuable.
Yeah. As well, by introducing blockchain, you can add more concepts to an election that probably today are respected, but it can be more from the technological perspective that are basically, first of all, the anonymity of the vote. You can technologically assure that the anonymity of the vote is assured during all the process. Also transparent, which means that you can actually see, for example, the results in real time without having to count on the ballots. And other things like, for example, by providing like zero knowledge technology, which is a cutting edge technology in the blockchain, mostly used in the blockchain space, you can even verify the elections cryptographically, the result of the elections cryptographically without having to count the votes again. So you have like a proof of all the elections that is mathematically secure, and cryptographically you can demonstrate that the results are what you said, because that's what by using some magic maths, I'll say it like that, you can provide this verifiable data that can actually assure that the results have been as you said. Yeah.
Awesome, great question, and thank you, Gus and Mark, for those responses. That is an application of blockchain technology and BLOOCK's technology that I hadn't even thought of. So good question. So another one that I'm seeing is, you mentioned that information is public and transparent. Does that mean that published information is visible by anyone?
No, I guess it was for BLOOCK. No, basically because I mentioned it earlier in the presentation, but the plain information like the data itself, the document, to say it, it's only in the client. So we don't even receive at any point of time the document by itself. We're only receiving a hash, which I was mentioning it earlier, which is a representation of this data, cryptographical representation of this data. So only with that, we can assure the integrity of this data during time. And obviously this data, the plain data is not even published into the blockchain by itself, only the representation. So your data is kept completely private, and at the end, privacy compliant.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. All right. Another question we have here is BLOOCK's cost model affected by price fluctuations in cryptocurrency markets?
The price of the services of BLOOCK?
Yes, the cost model.
No, and that's actually another feature of BLOOCK, which is that our cost is fixed. We got paid in fiat, in dollars, in euros, whatever, in a fixed basis. If the Ether goes up, like today, for example, a good day today, it doesn't affect us. If it goes down by a 50%, it doesn't affect us. And that's because our service actually, what it does is aggregating data, which means that we receive data or representation of this data from different customers, and we compress all this data in one only data, if that's the thing, and that's the only thing we publish to the blockchain while maintaining the integrity again. By that, we divide the cost of a transaction by all the customers, which means that at the end or at scale, the cost is negligible. So we don't modify the prices based on the Ether price or Bitcoin price, cryptocurrency in general. As well as, and to add on this, we go primarily to Ethereum mainnet, which is our main recommendation, but we are also interoperable with different blockchains at once, which means that all the data certified through BLOOK goes to today it's Ethereum, it's Polygon, and it's Gnosis chain, that are 3 different public blockchains out there. We transact to all of them at once. And why is that? This is because we want to be even more resilient. So if a network, for whatever reason, decides to go down or to migrate or whatever it is, you still have all the other ones to go. Or if one goes down in popularity and you don't want to verify more on this blockchain, you can go to the one of your choice at once.
Great, thank you for that response. So it looks like we have a couple more questions in the chat. I do want to realize that we still have quite a bit of time left. So if anyone in the audience wants to go back over a particular topic that we discussed earlier in the presentation, or talk about anything about Inflector's technologies or BLOOK's technologies, please feel free to put that in the Q&A chat as well. So one of the other questions that came up is, are there any other integration paths such as webhooks from Spire products?
Yeah, as I had mentioned, webhooks are something that is intended to be added in the future. I can't give a specific date or quarter as it is right now, but it's something that's on a roadmap that we're aiming to get done in the near future. We also have Spira apps, which as they are currently, they aren't very friendly to be developed by people externally of our company, but we're hoping to change that also in the near future to allow people to have multiple vectors to integrate external services with our service.
Awesome. Great question. So one more question that is currently in the chat is, even if the data is certified on blockchain, the customer needs to trust BLOOK to verify it correctly, right?
No, the verifications are done autonomously by our client in this case, which means that once the only thing you have to trust on BLOOK is that once you send your data to certify, that BLOOK actually sends a transaction to the blockchain. Once this is done, the verification is completely autonomous. That means that BLOOK, once it certifies, it can provide you with what it's called the proof of integrity, which is some data that you can verify by itself. And the result of this proof, you can verify directly to the blockchain. That means that, again, if once the data is certified at this moment, you are completely autonomous. So you don't have to depend on BLOOK. It doesn't matter what happens with BLOOK. You can verify by your own that the data provided or the verification is actually correct at any point of time and by anyone. And going again to one of the blockchains that we provide, that is not only one, are multiple ones, and obviously we plan to add more on the future.
Okay, great. Cool. Well, that looks like all the questions have been answered in the chat. Oh, it looks like one more just came in. 1 second. All right. Why do you recommend to use Ethereum over other blockchain like private ones?
Good question. Basically, because public blockchains is what actually provides you with the resilience or security that can be achieved by using the blockchain technology. That doesn't mean that the private blockchains aren't secure, but they are less, and that's how it is. And that's basically for the decentralized thing. If you have only one private blockchain, which consists on 1, 2 nodes, 3 if you want, or a consortium of different companies, it's less resilient and it's less transparent, because you are giving access to who you want and giving access to verify things to who you want when you want. By using blockchain, this doesn't happen. We don't control it as Block. No one can control it. So you are completely autonomous in the verification part, obviously. And on the resilient part, that means that if your provider of nodes, what the service that you are giving access to the blockchain goes down, you can go to another one and you can still verify without any change. So that gives you a lot more of confidence that this verification will be over time. And if a company closes or get shut down or whatever, you can continue to verify all your data without any issue. That's why we recommend going to the public blockchains. I don't say that Ethereum is the better one. I think it's the most popular one, I think, with Bitcoin, but Bitcoin doesn't allow you to send data. So we have to be aligned with Ethereum or EVM compatible blockchains, as it said. And Ethereum is the most popular one, and Polygon and Gnosis are more cheaper in transactions and are also popular as well at another level probably, but are also popular for different things.
Awesome, great question.
Another thing to add onto what I have just said, that is, we go to public blockchains that are less expensive in transactions to actually achieve a better response time. And that means that as we aggregating data, we have to wait some time to accumulate enough data to actually compress and to things be more efficient, basically for us. So Ethereum, as the transaction is the most expensive one out of the three, we transact in X hours, for example. But for example, for Gnosis, we transact, I think it's about every 2 minutes. So because of the transaction fees. So we also manage the different blockchains to actually achieve the response time of the certification that you need based on the use case. Probably, for example, for the use case I have presented today, it doesn't need to be verifiable in 1 hour time, or probably yes, but I don't think so. So you can wait until the certification has been transacted into Ethereum and all the verification that goes into this network. If you need that response time that it's in the order of minutes, then you'll have to go to a blockchain that actually supports that.
All right, looks like there is another question by an attendee. Will transactions with BLOOK be subject to gas fees on Ethereum? Gas fees got to very high levels in 2021. Would this impact service cost with BLOOK?
It's really, I responded this on, it's pretty much the same response as I said with a crypto price, but the answer is no. Today, the gas prices are really low. We expect it to be more expensive in the coming months, but we will not change prices because of that. Because as I said, as we have different customers transacting into us or sending their certifications through BLOOK, we can divide the price of the transaction between all these customers. So actually the price of everyone, it can be neglectable by yourself as a customer. So this is an operating cost of BLOOK, but we don't charge it to our customers.
All right, great question. So before we, wrap up today, unless there's any other questions that anyone has in the audience, or Gus and Mark, if you want to talk about anything or another topic in specific.
Well, as earlier showed up the e-voting use case, also there are a lot more that I'm not going to go obviously in detail on everyone, but yes, into different specific spaces where our technology can be applied, for example, or blockchain by itself, without going into the crypto space. For example, the first one, as we said, is traceability. I'm not going to go again into that. Other one, for example, is electronic voting, as we said earlier. But there's another one that I think it's really interesting as well, that is digital identity. or also gold in more in blockchain terms, maybe self-sovereign identity, which is actually identifying, actually attaching different credentials or claims to a user, to an individual, such as me, for example. I'm named Mark. I have a national identification number, which is that one. I have a degree in computer science, and I attended this conference last month. I mean, these are different claims that are associated to me in that case. And the difference between self-sovereign identity and common or common digital identity solutions is that all the credentials are on my side. I can have it on my mobile phone, for example, and I can give access to these credentials to who I want. And that means that, for example, if a company wants to see my degree or a certification that I have a degree in computer science in order to hire me, I can give access by myself. That means that I don't have to go to the college or whatever and ask them for a certification of that. I have this claim on my side, and I can decide it. I can decide to who I give it or to who not, and by which, if I want it to be available for 1 hour, 1 day, or 1 week, you know. And that can be also, and there are different solutions that are coming up in the blockchain space that are actually providing this by using blockchain, because with that you can have the traceability of your identity and the different claims that get attached to you. And by using, again, different technologies such as zero knowledge, for example, you are able even to demonstrate that I have a degree in computer science, to put the same example, without having to reveal it. By using cryptography and mathematics, you can actually verify some data without revealing this. That, for example, for a certification of the degree, it's maybe not the best example because most people don't mind to give those. But for example, if I have to give some proof that I'm over 21, for example, maybe I don't want to give my personal information to this party or this company or this entity. By using this kind of technology, you can avoid doing so by proving some claims or credentials without having to reveal data. That's another interesting use case that I think it's really cool. I think that can be done by using blockchain. That we can talk in another webinar if you want.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot of different use cases that are not only applicable to some of the challenges that our customers face, but are just really interesting to know about. Like I, have learned a lot working with you guys, put together this webinar. All right, cool. Well, if there is any other things that you guys want to talk about, we can also wrap up. And if any of the attendees have any other questions after the webinar, feel free to reach out to either one of the companies, BLOOCK or Inflectra. Similarly, if you are interested in learning more about BLOOCK's technologies or our Inflectra's products, please feel free to reach out to us as well. We'd be happy to have that conversation with everyone. But again, I just want to thank you all for coming in today. Big shout out to Marc and Gus for working with us, and also the BLOOCK team for putting this together, and also presenting that case study. Really interesting topic, and hopefully we can do more webinars like this in the future.
Yeah, thank you very much, Audrey, for the invitation and organizing all the webinar. As said, if you have any questions, you can reach to Inflectra or to BLOOCK directly, and we will be happy to answer any questions or that. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Awesome. All right, thanks everyone.
Thanks, everyone.